resiliency. Sorry. Okay. Now, let's talk about Cisco Expressway design consideration. What need to be considered when you design a Cisco Expressway solution? And we are focusing here on a mobile remote access solution, so whether Expressway CNE onto UCM or a VCS core or VCX Expressway with a VCS video infrastructure. Okay. What to consider? First, you need to consider mainly the service discovery mechanism. Okay. Cisco Jabber operates in the internet, starting Cisco Jabber or TC 7.2 or Cisco Jabber 9.7 above. Actually, we're talking about 10.5 Cisco Jabber, will automatically explore or find out that in collaboration edge architecture by querying or acquiring DNS SRV lookup into the public DNS. So you are starting your Cisco Jabber, you are online, or like you are on a Wi-Fi at home, and when you start your Cisco Jabber, you sign in with your Jabber ID, let's say username that is already being given to you when you are within the environment, within the local, within the enterprise, okay, and GRD at domain.com. What happens is Cisco Jabber will try to look for the DNS SRV underscore Cisco-UDS dot underscore TCP dot domain.com, the same domain you are specified when you sign in. Because you are on the internet, this DNS SRV record is only should be, this is actually the internal DNS SRV record. So the underscore Cisco-UDS is an internal DNS SRV record that should be only populated within the enterprise architecture, or should be only populated by the internal DNS server. So once you started to query that, the public DNS will say, okay, I can't find that. So what happened is Cisco Jabber will start another lookup saying, okay, if I can't find it, what about underscore collaboration edge dot underscore TLS dot domain.com? Do you have something like that? And that's the first consideration you need to do. You need to make sure that you already agreed with your public DNS provider that you populate this DNS SRV lookup for Collaboration Edge. Yes, I have this one. And what it should be resolving, it should be resolving the public A record of the Expressway E. So Expressway, let's say Expressway London.domain.com. So we are in London. Okay, it's Expressway London.domain.com in the public DNS. Now I know what Expressway London is because I made another DNS query. This is the A record. What is the IP address? I know the IP address. Let me reach the public IP address of what corresponding to the DNS SRV lookup. So now I go, Cisco Jabber will initiate a TLS communications or TLS handshake with trust certification authentication between the client and the Expressway E. And after TLS of handshake in place, an HTTPS GET command is actually the first command you send through HTTPS, and what's called GET Edge config command to know what exactly is Cisco Call Manager. Again, I need Cisco Call Manager is a Cisco-UDS, and what is the service name plugin. So what is my IAM and present server I need to look at. Okay, so you need to consider this. First, you need to actually populate the underscore collaboration edge dot underscore TLS SRV record on the public in the DNS only. Second consideration, in a multi-SRV record, so let's say you have Expressway E in a clustering environment, so I have several Expressway E, you need a multiple SRV record, or with with actually each one of them will go back and will say, okay, we'll round robin the IP addresses of several E or expressway E that will point into, or I will try to register to in the next time if I'm not to reach it. In a GUDNS service, so let's say if you are designing expressway in a multi-regional environment, you need to have an expressway DNS response. Sorry, you need to have a public DNS response to identify your location and give you the DNS SRV reply or response of your regional expressway. So, for example, if you have _ collaboration edge.tls domain.com SRV records with a weight 10, priority 10, 8443 port, it should be translated to expresswaylondon.domain.com in EMEA region. However, same DNS SRV records, if you are located in North America, should return the expressway newyork.domain.com. GUDNS or geographical DNS service is a purchase service, so the customer needs to agree with the public DNS provider to provide this service worldwide in a multi-regional expressway. Also, another consideration, you need to make sure that _Cisco-UDS needs to be available on the internal DNS only. So it needs to be available in the internal DNS only and not on the external DNS. Means that if you have _Cisco-UDS._TCP.domain.com, it translates to the call manager publisher. You can also have a subscriber if you enable a subscriber as well, so you can have multiple entries for load balancing, or you can round robin it. Okay, let's talk what is the SRV record. Sometimes it is really not really clear about to define what SRV. It's a service locator or record, or service location record. The first one is the name of the service itself. We're talking about here _collaboration -edge. Actually, there is an E missing here, so that. Collaboration Edge. Another service for business to business, for example, is _SIP dot _TLS or _TCP or UDP. _SIP, okay, is used alternatively for business to business. So in Collaboration Edge or MRA, we use _collaboration -edge. In business to business, we use _SIP or _SIP-S in actually secure SIP. The second part of the DNS SRV is the protocol. What protocol and what domain should I actually look it up? So we're talking about TCP, UDP, TLS, and what domain I should actually inquire. The second part in populating a DNS SRV record is the time to live. How long this record will be available in the public DNS, and how it should be. This, for example, 86,400 seconds is actually 24 hours. In is the DNS class. What DNS class it should be. SRV is service record time, so it means this is a service record time. First 10 or first number is the priority. It means which is the lowest, means the preferred. If you have 10, you have the same record, one is 10 and one is 20, 10 will be taken first and 20 will be taken after if 10 is not responding. 55, for example, is, let's say in this example, is the wait. So the wait or the load balance request with the same priority. Let's say if I have two SRV records to the same destination, or sorry, to different two destinations. Let's say I have clustering environment with Expressway London 1, Expressway London 2, Expressway London 3. And if I have Express London 1 with weight 10 and priority 10, then it will go to London 1 first. The second SRV record will go to London 2 because it's the same weight and priority, and the London 3 will go to the third one. So you'll be able to load balance your requests based on the way you actually populating your DNS SRV. If you have a peripheral here that you want to send the request to SRV, to Expressway servers more than others, you need to specify what is the priority, and what if both are the same priority, what is the weight or the load balance algorithm you actually wanted to use here, maybe 60%, 40%. So every 6 requests will go to London 1, then after that 7th request will go to London 2, etc. 8443, this is the service port. We're talking about service port is used for MRA, but if we are actually using for business to business, we replace that 5060 or 5061 in case we're talking about secure SEP integration. And of course, the final thing is the target A record. And the target A record should be in a fully qualified domain name format. I need to put it and populate it everywhere. And then you resolve that A record to an IP address that it will be actually being used. Okay, for your reference, those are SRV record to consider when you depends on the service you wanted to implement. If you're talking about MRA, we use _ collaboration -edge. Of course, inside MRA, there is XMPP federation, so _ XMPP-server. This is also an DNS SRV record. If we are talking about business to business, whether SEP or H33, you need to consider those SRV records, whether secure or non-secure. So secure SEP, so _SEP_s._tcp.domain.com, or _SEP._TCP. This is non-secure. This is port 5061. This is port 5060. Or if you are actually using UDP instead of TCP, you need to change that protocol. And actually, of course, in UDP format, you are not using securely because it's not a TLS environment anyway. In H33 business to business, you have another 2 SRV records, _H33LS for locator for RAS messages, and CS for you want to integrate with H.225 connection services. So one is 1719 ports and one 1720. This is for your reference. You can pause the video and see it again if you want. Okay, so what are the protocols that are operating in the mobile remote access? As we explored before, we have several protocols. One is SIP registration, so SIP over TLS for session establishment and maintenance of the session itself. Media, we are told we are transporting audio, video, and content sharing, and we must transport it securely on the internet, so we use TLS for signaling, we use secure RTP for media. HTTPS, we're using for login, provisioning, configuration, also download configuration file, contact search, visual voicemail, it's HTTP over TLS or SSL. XMPP for federation, it's also over TLS for IMN presence. What about if we have a hybrid environment? In some customers, they don't have a full on-premises environment, but they only have WebEx for contact search and IMN presence. So what happens is you enable SIP and media communications through Expressway E and Expressway C for registration of client, and also for media communications. However, you open HTTPS connection, XMPP connection to WebEx and enable WebEx Messenger service. By the way, by default, WebEx service is actually the first priority when launching Cisco Jabber. So when you launch Cisco Jabber, it tries to see first if there is a WebEx service or WebEx Messenger service that is associated with your domain ID. And if there is, it will try to authenticate first to the Cisco WebEx service. You need to be careful here when you're considering deployment of Cisco Jabber to exclude Cisco WebEx from WebEx service, if you are on premises, of course, only solution, so you need to be consider that. If you are not on premises only solution, so you have a mixed or hybrid environment, that you have a WebEx messenger, but you need to have also audio and video communication through your local unified communication manager. Hybrid environment is you don't need to do anything. WebEx Messenger is the first thing you could get queried first, so you need to make sure that you are educating the user to do so. Okay, another design consideration, context search. Okay, if you are on premises, so you have integration of the Active Directory with the Unified Communication Manager, again, it's really crucially recommended. If you are deploying Cisco Jabber in any way, whether you are deploying it only locally to the enterprise without Expressway, or you're using Expressway registration, you need to synchronize, use your Cisco Unified Communication Manager with a directory service, with LDAP. You make sure that you have a central Active Directory or a central directory service with users' information and populated telephone and email addresses on top of that directory, and synchronize this information with the Cisco Unified Communication Manager. So LDAP sync in place, Cisco Jabber will use ADI and BDI, Enhanced Directory Integration, and Basic Directory Integration, whether they're talking about Cisco Jabber for Mac or Cisco Jabber for iPhone. They will query directly Cisco Active Directory they will query Enquiry Directory, Active Directory, or Directory Server for context search. However, once you go outside and you have Expressway E and C in place, Active Directory integration will no longer an option. Cisco already implemented or forced that Cisco Jabber will use what's called user data services. And user data services is actually the search of contact through the UCM database. So to not have any maybe discrepancy of how the user will look like, that's why we really strongly recommend to have LDAP sync in place. Make sure that the information available in Active Directory is also available in the user database on the call manager. So when in Expressway mode, Cisco Jabber will only have the option to search for contacts on the call manager database through HTTPS, and it will not able to reach the Active Directory for again to do this context search, at least for now this release. But the only option we have today is only UDS or search through call manager. Another design consideration, if you are using or if you are having a WebEx or hybrid architecture. So if you are having an hybrid architecture and you are within the environment, let's say I have two Jabbers. One Jabber is within the local network, is using the corporate wireless network to access all the UC services, Cisco Unified Communication Manager for registrations, it's IMN presence, a Unity connection for visual voicemail, and other UC applications. Talking about here, let's say internal WebEx meeting server, for example. If we want to search for contacts, it will actually, this is a hybrid model. That means hybrid model means IMN presence is actually using WebEx. However, phone registration using UCM. So IMN presence is going through the firewalls to reach the WebEx cloud for WebEx Messenger service, whether you are internally or you are externally. So both need to reach the WebEx cloud. So in a WebEx hybrid model, directory is synchronized between on-premises Active Directory and the WebEx. So WebEx Cloud will actually have all the information about the users within the environment by a directory synchronization with both. So when you wanted to do a directory search, Jabber will go to WebEx and do a direct directory search. Same thing will happen when you are outside. Okay. Next consideration is media path consideration. You need to make sure of something very, very, very important. In Expressway, Cisco Expressway C is always in the middle of the media path. So whether you are connecting or communicating between a client outside in the internet using Expressway into an IP phone or a jabber within the network, calls will be always anchored through Expressway C. Or if you are talking to another client that is also registered through Expressway E and C, the traffic or the media will be actually anchored as well through Expressway C. That means that it will, if client A here on the internet is registered to the Cisco call manager through Expressway E through Expressway, and is trying to call client B, who is also a registered client through Expressway, media or SRTP will be actually also truncated or anchored through Expressway C. Okay, another consideration. Expressway C terminates the media, and as you know that Expressway C only terminates encrypted media. Encrypted media means the traffic is encrypted between client A and Expressway C. However, if you have a non-secure call manager, and the phone is of course on non-secure mode, SRTP get converted to RTP, and the traffic will be not encrypted between Expressway C and the IP phones. But if you have a secure, if you have a secure cluster, you can have an end-to-end encryption, between client A and phone and premises, and you have SRTP end-to-end if this phone is encrypted mode. Okay, so the second consideration is the reverse proxy traffic. So what is the initial traffic Expressway will listen to? Expressway E will listen to 8443, which is the TCP that will accept HTTPS traffic. What traffic does MRA allow for authenticated clients to the UC enterprise? So a simple MRA deployment will allow actually discovered UCM cluster, so it needs to see port 6970. It means that I need to download the configuration file from the call manager. It also needs to see TCP 8443s for UDS, for contact search. It also needs to see IMN present on port 7400, which is in XCCP, and also TCP 8443. Can MRA allow other traffic without identification? MRA only will allow the discovered supported services. However, if you need other, let's say, traffic, like visual voicemail access or photo retrieval, you need to add those specific URLs in the whitelist of Expressway C. So you need to make sure it's in the whitelist of MRA Expressway. Okay, so a firewall consideration. So this is the final consideration. The firewall consideration. You need to consider the firewall here. Expressway C is being built in the internal network. Expressway E is in the DMZ, and the internet. In the internal firewall, SIP-TC port 7001 to the outside. A rule of thumb, guys. Internally, the inbound, you need not to worry about the inbound in the internal network. Only the outbound rules need to be considered. So SIP-TCP port 7001 between Expressway C and Expressway E. Traversal media need to be from port 36,000 to 36,011. UDP, of course, this is the media that you will traverse. Now, this is only 12 ports, but actually Expressway C demultiplex and demultiplex the media through those only 12 ports. XMPP is using TCP 7400 outbound from Expressway C to Expressway E, and HTTPS is tunneled through SSH with TCP port 2222. This is from Expressway E through internal firewall to Expressway E. This is from Expressway C through internal firewall to Expressway E. Now, what ports need to be considered on the external firewall from the internet to Expressway E? The normal port of SIP 5061, traversal media from 36,012 to 59,999, XMPP, TCP 5222, which is for IM and presence, and HTTPS for 8443 as we do. Now, cluster consideration. Now, if you are trying to build Expressway in a scalability mode, you need to cluster it as a one-to-one scalability. So for one example, if you build one Expressway C, you need to build also one Expressway E. If you build two Expressway C, you need to cluster Expressway E the same thing, two Expressway E. So Expressway solution can be clustered up to 6 peers. This is the maximum number of clusters, and you can refer to the slide that we already have for the maximum capacity you can have up to 6 peers. However, Expressway clusters should be deployed with equal number of peers. So you can't deploy 3 on the Expressway E and 4 on Expressway C. You must match the same number. Also, you need to match the same OVA size. You can't have an OVA, small OVA and a large OVA within the same cluster and within the same type, like Expressway C, Expressway E, both need to have the same OVA size. Okay, so what are the collaboration deployment model? Of course, here we start in 8.5 and above, X8.5 and above. You can have one UCM cluster, one Expressway C, one Expressway E in a single pair. That's normal. You can have one UCM cluster serviced by 2 or more Expressway C or 2 or more Expressway E in a regional single expressway or like a different area in the world, or multiple area in the world. If you want, for example, you have one single UCM cluster, but you have several Expressway C clusters that are located in several regions around the world, but eventually all of those clusters will serve one single UCM. You can have one single pair, Expressway C and Expressway E, serving multiple UCM clusters, or you can have multiple regional, multi-cluster Expressway E in a regional access to multiple UCM clusters. Okay, this is especially in 8.5. Okay, so remember, you need a UCM 9.1 and above, and the recommended release is the 10.5. Okay, starting from X8.5 as well, you can have a single pair of Expressway C and E serving several UCM clusters, even in multiple domain environment. And so you can integrate with UCM cluster 1 with domain1.com, and integrate UCM cluster 2 with domain2.com, and integrate with domain 3 and domain4.com in 2 other clusters as well. However, you have up to 10 clusters in 10.5. And this is not a multi-tenant architecture. The reason for that, there is certificate consideration. You need to make sure that you have it in Expressway E. We will talk about certificate implementation in our next session of implementation. And that's why you need to make sure that you are not mixing customers with each other. And this is not a multi-tenant environment. And that's why you are actually doing... you can implement or you can build a multi-cluster or multi-domain environment, but we're not mixing the customers or multi-tenant architecture. Okay, so now what is not to support? Okay, what's not to do? If you are designing a Cisco Expressway, it is not the same as designing VCS. For example, those two models are unsupported models in MRA, so for mobile remote access, but it is supported model in a VCS access. Of course, this VCS and how it will work, it's out of scope of this presentation. However, you don't want to do that in MRA. For example, what is valid in VCS is Expressway E in a single cluster and another Expressway E in another cluster environment, but both integrated with the same Expressway C for what's called unbalanced deployment. An unbalanced deployment is not supported on MRA. Another also non-supported MRA is implemented cascaded Expressway E environment. Sometimes it is supported in VCS deployment. The reason for that, some customers, they have multiple security DMZ layers and they wanted to have several components in several DMZs, or enable client-server client components in a different DMZ requirement. So in this case, you have a traversal client with Expressway C, traversal server and a traversal client in one DMZ A, and another traversal server which is serving that client on DMZ A in DMZ B. However, this environment is not supported, what's called Expressway chain traversal, is not supported in mobile and remote access. Okay. Consideration. Here we're talking about some of the advanced deployment options. Here, if you want to split the functionality, also need to split the license deployment in different areas, you can do that by implementing what's called a balanced multi-purpose expressway deployment. You can have an expressway pair that are dedicated or designated for open video interoperability. Let's say you wanted to do business-to-business communications and consumer-to-business communications, so Jabber guest, you can dedicate one pair to do that, and have another parallel environment, Expressway E and Expressway C in a cluster pair 2, that is actually dedicated for mobile remote access for Cisco Jabber, 7800, 8800, DX100, TC-SERS, whatever, collaboration point, and XMPP federation. So one pair you will deploy rich media service licenses. The other pair will not needing any actually RMS because it's just dedicated for license. This will benefit you from the number of concurrent session, so you will not have a limitation of the platform limitation of the number of concurrent sessions if you are mixing both in the same box. This is a very good option, especially if you have two different environments, or you do have already a VCS environment with a VCS core and VCS Expressway that is serving business to business and a Jabber guest as well, and you want to introduce mobile remote access, you can actually have two other pair in a cluster, so to be using as a mobile remote access and XMPP federation. Okay. Another advanced model, what's called the balanced multipurpose, and in VCS, it's as we talked before, you can implement a VCS-C and VCS-E, or VCS core and VCS Expressway, a co-residence with the new Expressway. This is actually the more. Of course, in this case and also previous case, you need two DNS SRV record to be populated in the public DNS. You need to make sure this is available when you introduce this environment. Both are integrated with the same communication manager cluster with the same domain. Now, finally, we'll talk about the global deployment within multiple clusters. If you have several clusters, that is if you have a customer that has several clusters around the world, And those clusters, maybe you have 2 in North America, 1 in South America, 1 in EMEA, 1 in South Africa, 1 in Middle East, and you have 1 in Australia, 1 in Japan, and 1 in India. All are connected through Session Management Edition. If you see here, all of them are connected through SIP trunking, or are conditioned. What happens if you have single pair in each region? So Jabber, let's say if you have Jabber in North America, is connected using on the internet as using Collaboration Edge. So it queries the GUDNS and say, so this is actually in a multi-cluster environment with geographical DNS solution. The DNS SRV lookup will query the Collaboration Edge SRV Record. It return saying, okay, you are in North America. I will return you the expressway that is in North America, just corresponding to the same SRV record, expressway.nyc.domain.com. And what happened is Cisco Jabber will actually register. So here is the red dotted line is a SIP line registration to the call manager in New York, for example. So, and in EMEA, Cisco Jabber, well, there's someone in EMEA, like in EMEA region, or maybe he's in Africa, and he queries the same DNS SRV record. The GUDNS will actually return. It will, of course, identify it as in a regional EMEA device, and will return the SRV record of Expressway London to domain.com, and it will register to the designated cluster because it's integrated with all the clusters in South Africa. Same thing for Asia. Going to Japan, and will actually go to register to its own cluster that is defined too. The idea here, guys, is Cisco Expressway C needs to be integrated with all the clusters in the world. That's maybe not practical, but it doesn't take into consideration the SME in place, but it needs to be integrated with all individual clusters to allow registration to all of them. Now, if a Jabber client is moved from one location to another, what happens is the GUDNS will return the actual SRV record, and this actual SRV record will show them, will return the New York Expressway. But the New York Expressway C will actually know exactly its location, and it will direct the phone to go to the South Africa call manager through for a SIP line registration. And in that case, the media will be truncated or on the Expressway C in New York for any calls that will be managed by or being initiated from this Cisco Jabber or any phones, and it's being call control will be the South Africa call manager. Of course, there are many details, technical details to that, and the technical details to that will be covered in our next session. Now, today we conclude our initial design. These are the design consideration you need to know so far. We covered today the architecture and licensing. We covered the MRA design overview, and we also cover some consideration you need to take into place when you design MRA, and even in a multi-cluster view. The next session, what will happen is we will actually focus on several aspects. First, we will look at deployment of Cisco Mobile Remote Access. We'll look at Cisco Expressway E and Expressway C deployment, and what needs to be done when you deploy an Expressway E, including certification consideration, including also building the SSH tunnel, building the traversal zone between Expressway C and Expressway E, and how Jabber is actually trying to register through the internet to Expressway C and E and C and to the call manager. We'll talk about the certification consideration. We'll talk about the UCM consideration itself. what needs to be considered to implement an MRA end-to-end, even on the call manager and Expressway C. We will talk about the SSO, single sign-on consideration. If you're implementing single sign-on in your enterprise environment, how Cisco Jabber will interact with it. We will also look at how to troubleshoot as well Cisco Mobile Remote Access, and we'll talk about where to look to find maybe the logs, diagnostics, and what is the most common issues that you will find in MRA. If you please comment on this video, guys, if you need more or you want more, let's say, if you have any questions, of course, or you wanted to maybe another session to be covered, for example, multiple domain environment session, which I was thinking to also to produce a video on it, or any other related to Cisco Jabber, for example, as a standalone client and how it all operate. Or any other related subject. And thank you today and for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.